Good morning to everyone and to our prop, Ma'am Jacqueline Gaspay. Our lesson for today is all about controversies in the Philippine history. With the help of my groupmate, we give our very best to seek all the information you needed to know. Site of the First Mass. The first documented Catholic Mass in the Philippines was held on March 31, 1521, Easter Sunday. It was conducted by Father Pedro de Valderrama, along the shores of what was referred in the journals of Antonio Pigafetta as Mazawa. Today, this site is widely believed by many historians and the government to be Limasawa at the tip of the government Leyte. True, this was contested by who asserted that the first mass was instead held at Masao Butuan. To end the conflict for the issue about the first mass, National Historical Commission of the Philippines, NHCP, panel adopted and recommendations and unanimously agreed that the evidence and arguments presented by pro-Butuan advocates are not sufficient and convincing enough to warrant and repeal or reversal of ruling on the case by NHI, National Historical Institute. It is further strengthened by the evidence that it was only after 22 years, on 1543, next Spanish expedition led by Ruy Villalobos lands in Mindanao. Jose Rizal's retraction. He did or he did not. No, Rizal did not retract, although there were many opinions and evidence presented by various authors as to whether Rizal did or did not retract. Nonetheless, until now there is no proof or any justification to end the debate. First was the copy of the retraction paper that was allegedly signed by Rizal. That was even kept secret and was only published in newspaper. When Rizal's family requested to the original copy, it was said that it was lost. 39 years later, the original copy was found in Archdiocesan Archives. Ricardo Pascual, doctor who was given permission by the Archbishop Nozaleda to examine and document and later conclude in his book, Rizal Beyond the Grave, that the documents presented was forgery. The common rebuttal of this argument was either Father Balaguer or Father P had made errors in reproducing another copy of the original. Another evidence as to Rizal did not retract is when Father Balaguer came to terms that he married Joe and Josephine after Jose had signed into retraction paper. However, there were no marriage certification or public record shown that could prove Father Balaguer's statements. It was argued that Rizal retracted in order to save his family from further persecution, to give Josephine Bracken a legal status of his wife, and to assure reforms from the Spanish government. It is more likely to be Rizal's mentally, however. Come to think of it, would Rizal just simply neglect all the writing he convinced with his hard work? The same writings that brought him to point of being executed? No. Rizal's behavior during his last hours in Fort Santiago does not point into a conversions, the meo ultimo adios and letters, or indicate even a religious instability. In the evening, where his sister and mother arrived, never he had mentioned about the retraction, contrary to what Father Balaguer claimed that even in the afternoon, Rizal was oblivious and was asking for the formula of the retraction. Rizal was fixated of the thought that he would die for love of his country. He himself had convented death a long time ago. His character speaks so loud that even all Rizal's friends did not believe that he had written a retraction. Whether further the study that may emerge as the truth about Rizal retraction, conversely, is distracts nothing from his greatness as a Filipino. Cry of Balintawak or Cry of Pugadlawin. The Cry of Balintawak was secured on August 26, 1896. The cry defined as the turning point when the Filipinos finally refused the Spanish colonial dominion over the Philippine island. With tears in their eyes, the people as one man pulled out their cedulas and tore them into pieces. At the close of August 1896, member of Katipunan Secret Society or the Katipuneros, led by Andres Bonifacio, rose up in the revolt somewhere in an area referred as a Caloocan. wider than the jurisdiction of present-day Caloocan City, which may have overlap into present-day Quezon City. Originally, the term cry referred to the first clash between the Katipuneros and the civil guards. The cry could also refer to tearing up for community tax certificates, cedulas personales. In the defiance of their allegiance to Spain, the inscriptions of Viva la Independencia Filipina can also be referred as a term for the cry. This was literally accompanied by patriotic shouts. Because of competing accounts and ambiguity of place where this event took place, the exact date and place of cry is in contention. From 1908 until 1963, the official stance was the cry occurred on August 26 in Balintawak. In 1963, the Philippine government declared as a shift to August 23 in Pugadlawin, Quezon City. The Battle of Tirad Pass. Filipino laban sa Pasong Tirad. Ilocano, Gubat de Paso Tirad, and in Spanish, Batalla de Paso Tirad, sometimes referred to as the Philippine Thermopylae, was a battle in the Philippine-American War fought on December 2, 1899, in northern Luzon in the Philippines, in which a 60-man Filipino rearguard commanded by Brigadier General Gregorio del Pilar succumbed to more than 500 Americans, mostly of the 33rd Voluntary Infantry Regiment under Major Peyton C. March, while delaying the American advance to ensure that the President Emilio Aguinaldo and his troops escape. First man to circumnavigate the globe. The Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan is often credited as being the first person to have circumnavigated the globe, but the reality of his journey is a bit more complicated. Magellan first set sail in September 1519 as a part of an epic attempt to find the western route to the spice-rich East Indies in modern-day Indonesia. While he successfully led his crew across the Atlantic through a strait southern South America and other vast expanse of the Pacific, he was killed only halfway through the circuit of skirmish with natives of the Philippine island of Mactan. Magellan's death meant to his personally failed to circle the world, but his expeditions continue on without him. In September 1522, one of his ships arrived safely back in Spanish, having completed a successful circumnavigation of the globe of the commissioned 260 original crewmen. Only 18 had survived, and perilous 3-year journey. If Magellan wasn't the first person to circle the globe, then who was? The most obvious candidate is Juan Sebastian Elcano, as a Basque mariner, took control the expedition after Magellan's death in 1521 and captivated its lone surviving vessel, the Victoria, on its journey back to Spanish. Elcano and his sailors stand as the first people to have successfully voyaged around the world as a part of single journey, but they might not be the first human to have circumnavigate the globe over the course of a lifetime. Opinions differ, but many historians give the honor to Magellan's Malay slave. Enrique Magellan had seized Enrique from Malacca. During the earlier 1511 voyage to the East Indies, and Malay later served as round-the-world expedition, he interpreted the Pacific island. Enrique had previously traveled west in Magellan's from Asia-Europe before joining in voyage across the Atlantic Pacific, so by the time mission reached Southeast Asia, he had nearly circled the globe and returned to his homeland. Albeit over the course of several years and multiple voyages, Enrique abandoned the expeditions and disappeared shortly after Magellan's death in the Philippines. By then, he was only few hundred miles short of his points of origin in Malacca. If he ever returned to his homeland, then Enrique may deserve the true credit for being the first person to circumnavigate the globe. Last Filipino general to surrender to the Americans. Teodoro Agoncillo's account. On April 16, 1902, General Malvar surrendered in order to save his people from brutality of the enemy and from hunger. With the surrender of Malvar, Systematic opposition to the American sovereignty ceased, but their effects on the Americans was negligibly. Jose Malvar's account, Malvar's grandson. On April 15, Malvar, his men went down to Mount Makiling. There is a newspaper photograph in General Bell and General Malvar shaking hands. The photograph shows a crowd watching in the occasion with the woman in the crowd in festive attire. It is evident from the picture that there was not indication of a token of firearms. Fire Asenio Labanan. Agoncillo is from Batangas, so he can drum beating from Malvar surrendered earlier by 2 years, Labanan said, referring to his professor in college. Ola surrendered in September 25, 1903, a year and 5 months after Malvar, to then Governor Bet and Colonel Van Holtz with 28 of his men and officers on the condition that they may be granted amnesty. Minion Police Journal. General Ola have been creating considerable trouble in the province of Albay. Luzon has the surrounded from the American troops with 28 officers and men of his command. He surrendered a few of his guns and promised to turn all over arms belonging to his band without delay. Carmen Guerrero Nakpil account. On July 17, they were invited to a town fiesta in Cavite by U.S. Colonel Van Schaik, and orchestra played music amid American flags and bunches of flowers at 11:30 a.m. U.S. officer, pistols in hand, walked in Sakay found in an arm against his giant attacker. He and his officer disarmed. The Los Angeles Herald. Macario Sakay and Francisco Carton surrendered at the constabulary headquarters in Manila on June 16. The surrender of this land-owned chieftain was accomplished through the influence of Villager, a former official of Sakay's government. Picture of Malacanang. Sakay was accused and found guilty, or sedition was released after war. He then founded the Nacionalista Party on April 1904. He proclaimed himself president of his self-established government, the Republika ng Katagalugan, on the September 13, 1907. Sakay was hung in for battery 3. Thank you for your listening and I hope you understand it.